What started out as a joke has turned out to be a disaster.
Creed appears to be in very serious condition.
The man alive.
If he dies, he dies.
If I get corona, I get corona. At the end of the day, I'm not going to let it stop me from partying. You know, we've been waiting for Miami spring break for a while. About 2 months we've had this trip planned. 2-3 months. So we're just not even having it.
Hello everybody, my name is Aric Wood, and welcome to Aric Talks, the show where I talk about things that are important to me, and today I wanted to go on a little adventure with you guys and read through the executive order that the governor of Oregon just released. California and a few other states have also received an order like this in the midst of the coronavirus. Everyone is being ordered to stay in their homes. Now, I've already read this once before. I read it before setting up this recording, and I'm going to be skipping around a little bit. Basically, what this video is going to be is I'm going to read through it, offering a little bit of commentary. Then I'm going to summarize my thoughts pretty efficiently there towards the end, and then I'll offer some parting thoughts and encouragement to everyone kind of stressing out in the world right now. I'll leave timestamps in the description or in the comments so that you can skip around if you want to, but for now, let's just go through and see what this big, scary executive order is all about. So first off, we have some historical context, the history of executive orders so far, where this executive order fits in with all of that. No normal person really needs to care about all of this stuff, so we're just going to move on from it and get straight to the legal stuff. Okay. So now, therefore, it is hereby directed and ordered that it is essential to the health, safety, and welfare of the state of Oregon during the ongoing state of emergency that to the maximum extent possible, individuals stay at home or at their place of residence, consistent with the directive set forth by my executive orders and guidance issued by the Oregon Health Authority. To that end, and then a bunch of legal citations, I am ordering the following. 1. Non-essential social and recreational gatherings of individuals outside of a home or place of residence, e.g. parties, celebrations, or other similar gatherings, are prohibited immediately regardless of size if a distance of at least 6 feet between individuals cannot be maintained. Okay, immediately. There's something weird going on here that I wanted to draw your guys' attention to. Gatherings of individuals outside of a home or place of residence. Just a home. Does that mean that I can go over to a friend's house? I mean, that's a home. Is that forbidden? Or is it not? Because I was under the impression the whole point of all of this was to prevent people from going from one house to another house and, engaging in social visits and that sort of thing. But apparently that is permissible under this. But I don't think that's the intention. I'm not really sure. Like, having it be a home instead of their home, like, if it was non-essential social and recreational gatherings of individuals outside of their home or place of residence, that would make sense. But because it's a home, there's just some vagaries. I don't know how this is written in California's executive order, but that just struck me as extremely strange. Next item on the docket, individuals are prohibited from patronizing businesses that are closed pursuant of paragraph 2 of this executive order, and from engaging in conduct prohibited by prior executive orders or inconsistent with the guidelines provided by the Oregon Health Authority. When the individuals need to leave their homes and residence, they should be at all times maintaining social distances of at least 6 feet from any person who is not a member of their immediate household to the greatest extent possible, and comply with other social distancing requirements. Guidance is issued by the Oregon Health Authority. Okay, we're only 3 things in, and I already am irritated again. This executive order uses the term should. If you're writing in legalese, the word should is poison. There's a lot of things we should do. I should brush my teeth more often. My friend should call me more. Like, there's a lot of shoulds in the world. When you're writing laws, you tend to try and write must, are compelled to, definite language. Making the should argument leaves it soft, which on the one hand you might like. You might prefer that these regulations be loosely applied. But on the other hand, is it illegal or not illegal based on this is it to be closer than 6 feet from someone? This leaves it up to interpretation. When things are left up to interpretation, whether or not they're illegal, that puts regular citizens at risk of misunderstanding. So I'm already a little irritated at this executive order, not for any policies it's putting forth, but for lack of clarity. Okay, we're on to D. Individuals may go outside for outside recreational activities, walking, hiking, but must limit those activities to non-contact and are prohibited from engaging in outdoors activities where it is not possible to maintain appropriate social distancing 6 feet or more between individuals. So that basically means that you can go to the park. Sorry, you can't go to the park because of another thing, but that basically means that you can go outside as much as you want as long as you are 6 feet away from another human person, which, fair enough. That's not a bad policy. Failure to comply with any of the provisions of this executive order constitutes an immediate threat and creates immediate danger to public health. Any person found to be in violation of this executive order is subject to the penalties described in ORS 401990. So this is why I don't like the word should. This is why I don't like how many vagaries there were just in this first section of the executive order. In this first section of the executive order, there are at least 3 potential misunderstandings that can occur from normal, well-intentioned Oregon residences. And what the penalties described in ORS 401990 is up to $1,500 in fines and potentially 30 days worth of jail time. This isn't something that you want to accidentally misunderstand. There's some, serious consequences to this sort of thing, assuming it's enforced properly, but I'll get to that during my kind of cleanup general overview section. So now it's the closure of certain businesses. Basically, anything that is like public amusement has been shut down. Amusement parks, aquariums, arcades, etc. Day spas, anything non-medical, anything non-food. There's a specific list. If you want to go through it and see specifically, you can. Indoor party places, including jumping gyms and laser tags, are all out of the picture, which is hilarious to me. Paragraph 2 of this executive order does not apply to restaurants, bars, taverns, brew pubs, wine bars, cafes, food courts, coffee shops, or other similar establishments that offer food or drink which remain subject to executive order, yada, 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 prohibiting on-premise consumption of food or drink, but allowed to take and drive in, out, or delivery services. So if you're a delivery person, you work at a pizza place, you're probably keeping your job. Things are probably going to be pretty stable for you. Most restaurants in the Salem area have gone into full delivery mode. Everyone's doing delivery now, which is fantastic as far as I'm concerned. Next, indoor and outdoor malls and other businesses subject to paragraph 2 of this executive order are not prohibited from operating to provide food, grocery, healthcare, medical, pharmacy, or pet store services. So if you're a part of any type of company that does that stuff, you're probably still in the job and you can still go there under this order. Subject to approval by the governor, the Oregon Health Authority has the authority to determine if additional businesses closures are necessary, yada, yada, yada. So this is another interesting thing. Effective 12:01 a.m. on March 24th, so that would be tomorrow at the time you're recording this, I prohibit the operation of any other retail business not subject to paragraph 2 of this executive order unless the business designates an employee or officer to establish and implement and enforce social distancing policies consistent with guidance from Oregon Health Authority. So if you work at a retail store and they appoint an employee, just appoint an employee to maintain and implement and enforce social distancing policies, your company is still allowed to operate, you know? Retail businesses that fail to comply with this paragraph of this executive order will be closed until they demonstrate compliance. So reserving the right to shut down any store that doesn't maintain social distancing. Paragraphs 6 and 7 of this executive order do not apply to grocery, healthcare, medical, pharmacy services, which also are encouraged to comply with social distancing guidelines. So basically, most retail places, I think, are going to stay open. Best Buy, all that sort of thing, it's all going to stay open as long as they are complying with social distancing and allowing for at least six radius feet for each customer and employee coming into the store, which is pretty surprising. I was expecting a much harsher clampdown, quite frankly. Workspace restrictions. Effective on March 25th, 2020, all businesses and nonprofit entities with offices in Oregon shall facilitate telework and work at home by employees to maximum extent possible. Work in offices is prohibited whenever telework and work at home options are available. In light of position duties, availability of teleworking equivalent, and network adjacency. So if you can't do teleworking, then you're in trouble. But then there's this next section. Then telework and work from home options are not available. Businesses and nonprofits must designate an employee or officer to establish, implement, and enforce social distancing policies. So offices can remain open, cubicles can remain open as long as they're enforcing social distancing policies. So offices aren't going to be shut down unless they can't comply with those policies. Government buildings, basically describing the same process as for businesses and workspaces, but for government buildings. Childcare facilities, the only interesting thing here is that you can't have a childcare facility that houses more than 10 kids at once. Other than that, you're perfectly fine to stay open and operational, which I find very interesting, again. And she's delegating authority to the Department of Education, yada, yada, yada. Outdoor travel. I hereby order all private and public campgrounds to be closed immediately, except for camp hosts or veterans from remaining in state campgrounds. I don't know why veterans were specified there. I don't know enough about that particular situation. And it does not extend to RV parks or other housing. I authorize the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department to close any property or facility whenever proper social distancing cannot be maintained, implying that parks and facilities where it can be maintained will remain open. For public recreational areas that are permitted to remain open subject to this executive order, signs requiring social distancing will be posted. So you got to put up signage, yada, yada, yada. Individuals are directed to minimize travel. Okay, so this is another part. Individuals are directed to minimize travel other than essential travel to or from a home, residence, or workplace, from obtaining or providing food, shelter, essential consumption needs, education, healthcare, or emergency services for essential business and government services for the care of family members, household members, elderly persons, minors, dependents, persons with disabilities, or other vulnerable persons, pets, or livestock, travel as directed by government officials, law enforcement, or courts, and other essential travel consistent with the directives of my executive orders and guidance from the Oregon Health Authority. And then it basically explains that these are enforceable through certain laws. You'll get fined a certain amount, and that's basically what the executive order is. So now that we've read through the executive order together, I want to deliver a few short pieces of commentary of why I find this particularly interesting in comparison to all the other executive orders that Kate Brown has distributed. It was very clear very early on that Kate Brown did not want this order to go into effect. She announced on Thursday that she did not consider a shelter-in-place order to be relevant or necessary or, just a good idea for Oregon. And then she was basically shamed and kowtowed on national television by the mayor of Portland into saying that if you don't do it, we will. And then over the weekend, this was implemented. This is not a copy of California's executive order. I haven't got a chance to check California's executive order, but I'm told that it's not a copy. And it seems to be much, much looser and much more vague than California's policy. Now, with that said, it might very well be legal for you to go visit your friend's house. It might very well be legal for you to go do 10,000 things, but it also very well might not be. This is the irritation. When laws are written, they should be clear, concise, and followable. There's so many little tweaks in this executive order. Like, once again, am I allowed to go to any house? It is a house as prescribed in this particular thing. Yeah, it is. I mean, if I go to my friend's apartment, that is a private residence. And if I have 10 people go to that apartment, that is still technically a private residence. Now, it would be tremendously stupid to do something like that right now. And Lord knows I have my Zoom account all set up to do, hangout sessions with my friends remotely right now, as I think everyone should. But just... So this is kind of my commentary, is that when you have a crisis situation, the leader who has to get you through that crisis situation, their best and worst qualities as a human being and as a leader are going to be brought to light. Kate Brown, and I say this without judgment towards her policies or her politics or anything like that, Kate Brown is a really bad communicator. She doesn't really understand, as an administrator, she's a decent speech giver, she's all that sort of thing, but she doesn't know how to communicate what she wants to have happen down to her subordinates. And so if I'm a police chief in in Lincoln County or something like that, and I read this and I know I need to enforce these rules, I mean, how am I going to go about enforcing that? There's so much leeway, there's so much interpretation. I can genuinely see this directive being very frustrating for a good number of people. So my recommendation is just plain and simple, stay inside. Don't bother going out, just keep yourself indoors. Not indoors, because you can when I'm done recording this, I'm gonna go for a run. And that should really be encouraged. But yeah, don't try and push this ruling. Don't try and test to see how far the law goes right now. It's just not worth it. It's safer for you to minimize social interaction. Do conference calls with your friends. Call your grandma. See how she's doing, and doing all that sort of thing. And so getting to the next point. Setting aside my irritation at implementing policies like this and the honestly bumbled response that both Oregon and the country in general has had to the coronavirus situation in general, pushing that stuff to the side, I think it's very important that everyone doesn't let the anxiety of all of this get the better of them. Just don't let the world get you down, And I'm recording videos for the first time in a long time. I'm hanging out with friends digitally. I'm interacting with my family. I'm calling them. I'm doing some art projects. And yeah, I'm going outside and I'm getting exercise. And throughout this process, it's important to acknowledge that we are experiencing potentially a once-in-a-lifetime event. Potentially one of the most significant events in our lifetime. This is something that I know when I'm a great-grandpa, I'm going to bore my great-grandchildren to death with all the time. It's a big, notable thing that probably won't happen again for a very long time. And so the first thing to do is to not panic. The second thing to do is to make sure that our governing officials and our community leaders have the resources they need to help us and help get us through this. You know, and if you are someone who's getting freaked out by everything happening, I highly recommend you go on Oregon.gov and read the governor's executive orders and see if any policies are being put in place that could help you through this crisis. And if there's no policies that are able to help you, reach out to local communities. I mean, I know plenty of churches right now that have donation drives going on to help members of the community who are struggling. And there are plenty of other nonprofit organizations that are putting together things like that right now as we speak. It's gonna be a weird couple of months. That is inevitable. That's just the truth of the matter. But if we keep our head down, we try to stay productive, you know, the good old-fashioned poster, keep calm and carry on. I don't know. Maybe I'm being overly optimistic. I've been told both ways. I've been told that I'm a doomsday prepper and that I'm overly pessimistic, and I've been told that I'm overly optimistic and I need to see the darkness of the world. But ultimately, I guess what I'm trying to say is the world is spinning on its axis still, and though it's gonna get dark, I can't help but shake the feeling that it is psychologically good for the world to slow down for a few minutes and to calm down for a few minutes and not worry too much. Yeah, so, you know, conventional wisdom. Seize control of what you have control over, be informed of the things you don't have control over, and try to make your little corner of the world during this quarantine as pleasant and perfect as possible. Yeah, I don't know. I'm rambling a little bit, and I apologize for that, but I really do feel like encouragement is in order rather than pessimism and fear. I feel like, yeah, no, I think I'm going to leave off with that point. I think that we should be going out of our way to encourage our friends, our family, and our neighbors, and going out of our way to minimize pessimism as much as possible. The world will get dark, but we can make our little corners as bright as possible. And with that said, my name is Aric Wood. Thank you so much for watching. You are a beautiful human being. Try to change the world today. And as always, sincerely yours, Aric Wood.